And I think that I would like to thank, first of all, the Indic Research Forum. One could not find a better time probably to have such a webinar, such a discussion. It's a combination, of course, of 2611 coming soon and 40 days, 15 years to 2611, and 40 days since the 7/10 attack on Israel. And I would add to this trio, I will make it a trio by probably adding 9/11, because I think that these were watershed events to each one of the countries and the world to understand the Islamic Jihad and its influence on our lives. When you look at, I will concentrate naturally a lot on 7 October, 40 days ago. And the main people ask, what happened to Israel? This country is very strong and everything, and intelligence services. I would say that, there's still time to look into it. But the clear thing in my eyes is that we had a concept, and the misconcept was that you can contain jihadists. We thought that with dual containment, we can hold Hamas by deterrence on the one hand, and on improving the life of the citizens of Gaza on the other hand, because about 30,000 were coming into Israel. We allowed Qatari money to go in. We allowed the merchandise to go in. And we thought that Hamas, as the leader of Gaza, will have some responsibility towards his population. But this was a huge mistake, because we didn't understand that the jihadist ideology is the one that reigns. All the rest is nice to have if they can be a little bit more pragmatic implementation of things. So in short, I would say that on the 6th of October, Friday evening, we went to sleep thinking we have Hamas as our neighbor, and Saturday morning we woke up with ISIS on our border. That's the big change, I think, that happened in Israel. And you look at what they did on October 7th, you understand that this cruelty, the rape, the decapitation, having body cams, most of the evidence we get is from their body cams. They photoed what they did intentionally, hijacking people, doing now psychological warfare, trying to intimidate the population. I mean, you go back to 2611, it's exactly the same thing, I believe, the same idea and what they want to achieve. And I believe that we are in a very critical period, in the sense that for a while after the campaign of the US and the international coalition, there was the feeling that Islamic jihadism, terrorism is a little bit down, controlled, tamed in a way. Of course, we all understand that it's in the minds and hearts of people, so you cannot make it go away in any way, but the organizational part of it was decapitated in a way, or weakened. Their means, the money, everything was a little bit weakened. And one of the biggest problems that can happen now is that if there will be a picture of victory of Hamas, a small organization against the army that is considered the strongest in the region and beyond, very strong also beyond the region, this might give backwind or ripple effect, whichever you want to call it, to those sleeping cells or entities or people that are all around the world, including South Asia, including a lot in Europe, a lot in North America. And this can be very, very dangerous, and to different kinds of terrorism that can happen. It's also endangering the pragmatic regimes in our region. Of course, the Muslim Brotherhood idea in general is their enemy. It's the enemy's opposition of Egypt, who tried to topple or to make a regime change, to the Gulf countries. I think that's very clear to everyone. And also influences the way they look at this crisis. Of course, they have to balance between public opinion, internal public opinion, which is on the one hand, and their probably strategic interests on the other hand, not to see victory to the jihadists and to the Muslim Brotherhood. I believe that what we can see here is that Iran is the head of the snake in this sense. Iran has 4 military outlets, wings, whichever arms in the region. The flesh and blood of Iran is, of course, Hezbollah in the north, Shiites, Nasrallah, the leader, speaks himself as a soldier in the Revolutionary Guards, the strongest. Then you have Hamas, which are Sunnis, of course, but very close to Iran. All four, by the way, are equipped, trained, and financed by Iran. And then you go down to the Houthis in Yemen, Shiites again, and you go to the militias, Shiite militias in Iraq and Syria. And all four are engaging with Israel now, trying to create a situation where Israel will be deterred from completing the mission of eliminating as much as possible the capacities and the leadership of Hamas, which is very, very important that you achieve it, because any other picture, as I said, will be very problematic. The Americans were very fast on their feet to understand the situation. They sent already the first carrier to the region very, very fast. The next day, I think it was even. And that was very, very important. Together with the deterrence of Israel, I think we for the time being, I hope it will continue, we contain the possibility of enlargement of the escalation. Of course, we are in de facto war by proxy with Iran, not to be mistaken. Hezbollah is fighting Israel. It's like, as I said, the Iranian Revolutionary Guards, everyone is engaging Israel, but we are trying to, at the same time, to focus on taking care of Hamas, what we have to do. And then if someone else wants to, or meanwhile, if someone wants to challenge us, it will be also, I think, eventually, Iran, instead of losing one arm that it invested a lot of money into, might lose much more. And I hope that the Iranians also understand that. Although we have to say Hezbollah has the ability to inflict quite a lot of pain on Israel, but what we can do to Hezbollah in Lebanon is 10 times greater, I believe, and this is probably still there in the air of everyone. You know, in the past, Al Jazeera was probably the main known, especially Al Jazeera Arabic, but not only, poisoning of the minds of the people, the main tool. Today, unfortunately, and I think the professor also alluded to that, we have the social media. Social media is a wonderful tool for such people, fake news, incitement, everything is there. You add to that phenomena in the world of extreme liberalism, misled liberalism, in the sense of uninformed liberalism. So, you know, when I see, as an Israeli, I see myself as a liberal Israeli Jew. Most Jews are liberals, by the way. Liberals does not mean we believe in human rights, we believe in equality. It doesn't mean that we are soft, not to mistaken the softness of other Western powers. We are not soft. I mean, we are all hardliners when it comes to defending ourselves, and liberal when it comes to how we want to conduct our lives. And when I see gays for Palestine or different misguided groups like that, when gays in Palestine, the only thing they can do is be thrown off rooftops or escape to Israel in order not to be executed. This is the reality we have to deal with, a lot of misinformed and disinformed people. I would continue maybe towards the end and say one thing. I will use high treason, say, in Israel. I will quote Prime Minister Modi. I think it's very relevant what he said about terrorism, that it's an enemy of humanity, and there can be no if or but in dealing with it. Jumping a little bit, we must come together to fight this menace. And I think that we all understand that, and Prime Minister Modi was also true to his commitment and was among the first leaders in the world, 7 October afternoon, already to condemn unequivocally this attack without giving any context that can maybe explain why you rape and murder kids and decapitate people and hijack and whatnot. I believe that also probably in general, of course, there are different views. The Indian public is probably the biggest supporter in the world. I would think in numbers, in a percentage, probably the highest support you will get, because and India comes from the point of view of experience. You suffer terrorism, you fight terrorism. So I think in this sense, it's an educated support by many. It's not only a blind support or against in this case. So I think it's very, very important what we get here. I would finish by the last point that I think it's exactly the good time for India to designate Hamas as a terror organization also in India. It's acknowledged already in about 40 countries, democracies, all the European Union, US, Canada, Australia, UK. So I think it's the right time, and also to prevent phenomena like we see that Khalid Mashal can appear online in Kerala and call the people for jihad on Israel. But if you prepare for jihad, I think no one wants to have his citizens be prepared for jihad, in the state of mind of jihad. Call them to go out to the streets and the circles and the corners to demonstrate. I don't think someone wants that either. And calling them to finance, and this is terror financing, finance the resistance. The resistance, of course, they call it resistance. We probably in this forum would call it Islamic Jihad or fundamentalism or whatever. So I think I will conclude here. I will stay until the end of the session, but I apologize that I have a very, very busy schedule these days. But thank you very much for having this conference, extremely important. And thank you for inviting me, and such a huge, respectable team, group of speakers from both India and Israel. Thank you.